the goal of having in-ear monitors. It's always been like coming in to a box. You're more or less alone, and sometimes when you're on stage playing big festivals, maybe it's not enough ambience microphones on the audience and stuff, and you stand there and it's like, oh, the audience are quite lame today, just because it's a problem with the ambience microphones. And I think in the future, for example, with the KLANG, you can program it via MIDI also, and in that case you can have the guitar tech. He can just have a little button he can press, and then the ambience in between the songs goes up 5 dBs, and when he presses it again it goes down, and you don't need a big surface to do it. You can program like snapshots and stuff like that, but it's still, I think it's going to make the work for monitor guys. When they try it, they're going to understand it. First of all, the Mackie DL32R here, where all the inputs, we have the preamp section and everything, and as I said before, everything runs from an iPad, and up here we have the KLANG, and these two are connected via Dante connection, so I can get up to 64 in and outs in the KLANG. At the moment we're using 32 in and 6 stereo out, so 12 outputs for 6 in-ear units. We running the side fills just to have sort of a backup and get some nice low end on stage, and presence just to add up a little bit. And we're running everything, no amps, no old school amps on stage. We're running, both me and Oscar running the Kemper power rack. We have 2 cabinets on stage for just feedback, but everything goes straight into the splitter box here, so we get it straight into the Mackie. And the same with the microphones. We're using the Sennheisers 2050s, 4 of them, so it's no cables going up on stage for either guitar or vocals. And maybe we can have a closer look on the setup we're using. I have the iPad here. So this is the modern console for a Hammerfall monitor production setup. I can just start to connect here. Let's see, oh, there, I'm connected. So we have kick in, kick out, kick in, kick out. The drum kit set up here. And guitars, click tracks, bass, guitars, vocals, ambience microphones, front of house talkback. It's quite normal setup for a monitor. So we don't work in this surface, we work in the KLANG surface, and that more or less looks like easy faders. So we have kick drum, all the drums here in blue, the bass is in brown, guitars in green, and then we have click, and we have the vocals and ambience and lead vocals and lead vocal effects. So everything can be individual. We see all the guys here. The mixes looks a little bit different. Yeah, they do. Lead vocals, Oscar, and of course the crew. So everyone can work exactly how they want to work with the whole setup. But the magic with this one is if you press the stage. Here comes the actual setup that's very interesting. And where we see, for example, the FX here, that's the delay. That's in normal stereo. But then we have the vocal reverb. I moved it out a little bit, and suddenly you get, instead of like a reverb tail of the vocal, you get like he actually standing in a room. It's not that old style swish reverb. It just ends up. But here also you can go in and solo whatever you want to move around. For example, the guitars, you can see in my mix, my guitar is still stereo, but it's not stereo left and right. I moved it to the side a little bit, but if you listen to it in the ears, you still have a great stereo feeling to it. And the bass, I put the bass microphone sort of, the amp simulation in the middle and the DI on the side, and that makes the bass, instead of just being in the middle of your head, it's just wide and it sounds amazing, but no phase problems, nothing. And if we go on the next step, here you can move around and do whatever you want to do with the kick drums and snare. It's a little bit blurry but we can do drums here, for example. You see all the kick drums are in the middle, and you have snare drums there. The toms is in a group, so they're in stereo in front, so you can feel the drums moving around you more or less. And then I put the drum reverb a little bit in the back to get it not so sharp. But with a touch of a finger, you can choose where to place the guitars in level, sort of. So this is like medium, and that is about 1 meter, 1.5 meter over ground, and you can move everything up and down depending on what you're looking for. Of course, we're working in a metal band now, so everything is quite equal when it comes to that. But if you start to work with string sections and working with, you know, acoustic guitars and stuff, you can, if you move them up and down, it's the same feeling as you take a speaker and you move the speaker up and down. You're gonna get more high end up here, and you get less high end when it goes down on the floor. That's very, very interesting. And the fader bank we saw there, and then it comes what all musicians love. This is a VCA monitor world. So for me, for example, if I want more drums, I don't need to go into the mixer and increase all the faders. I can go in and just press plus here, and the whole drum kit comes up, or the bass. I don't need to go 2 bass channels. All the guitars, all the vocals here, the lead vocals and the lead vocal effects. So this is groups, and that's also individual, depending on who you're working with. For example, now we have the same setup because everyone was satisfied with it. But for the lead singer, for example, he could say the band instead. And yeah, I have to say, this has really revolutionized the monitor setup. It's the best monitor setup I've ever used, because the clarity in everything, it's amazing. And yeah, I don't know what more I can say, that just the KLANG made something new for Hammerfall. The most amazing thing is with the KLANG system is that it's totally independent. You know, you can all the mixes, you can lock mixes to a device, an OS device. For example, I showed you the iPad earlier, but the thing is, if for example, I'm on stage and all the techs are working and everyone, I can just, you know, reach my cell phone, and I start the app, and it directly connects, and it connects to my mix. It says Pontus there, and I can go in and adjust levels and do whatever I want to do. If I want to move it, solo the guitars, for example, I can move the guitars exactly same as on the iPad I showed you earlier. And I can go in and change. I have the VCA groups for the monitor. You know, I can do it in a millisecond. Just, the guitars need to go up today. I can go in and just press the plus arrow, and I get some more guitar. And then if I want to go in and do small adjustment between instruments, I just go in here, and then I go and find the guitars, and I can go in and adjust the levels and that's really good. And when you're using, as we do, the Kempers, that line guitars, and we're using a line setup for the bass, it's no microphones moving on stage. The input signal is the same every day. So if you experience that something doesn't sound right, it's not, you know, looking for a microphone moved a couple of centimeters or anything, then you just go in and say, okay, it must be maybe a cable or something. And when you do that, if it happens on stage, it's the same. It's the same all, you know, even if you have a crew, a monitor guy, he has to run out and fix that, or the stage guy or the microphone guy. But here, everything is set up, we have the sound, and it sounds exactly the same every day. Of course, if we play a bigger arena or something, you have to adjust it a little bit level-wise, because you get more space. But otherwise, it's so easy. You can just connect to it, and it just works. For example, because the drummer he's stuck on his seat, his drum stool, he brings his mobile device and just turn on the app, the KLANG app, and then he has it there. And he actually said, Johan said to me like a couple of weeks ago in the beginning of the tour, I haven't even touched it, but it just feels safe to have it up there anyway. So everyone can connect to it, even if you're doing smaller tours. If you have a sound guy and you don't feel secure to, you know, operate it yourself, the sound guy understands it directly if you're using. But the KLANG system is more or less for using for in-ear monitoring, and the OS device or a computer, it doesn't matter. You can just, because we have a stage router, it's called a router that's connected to both the Mackie and the KLANG, and sorry, of course all the in-ear units, the Sennheiser in-ear units and microphone units. So I can reach them from my computer in the dressing room if I need to. So the mobility is amazing, and the sound. You just have to try it. It's I have my test crew, and that's the band, and I introduced this one, and they were a little bit skeptic when you start to rehearse, but if you ask them now, they're blown away. They love every day, and the show, it feels great. And very soon, I know it's going to come in a 3D eye, it's called, and you can see it. It's already implemented in the software. You can see it down here. You can choose mono, stereo, 3D, and i3D. And with the i3D, you need to have a sensor on stage. And when you have the sensor, the whole mix, so if you're facing the drums, the hi-hat going to be in that ear. But if you move around, it's going to automatically move to the other ear, because it's intelligent. You just have a sensor on stage. And that's the next step. And I love to try it, because then it's like being on stage with side fields, with wedges, everything. You know, it's a natural in-ear situation, and the 3D thing moves flawlessly around. So that's the next step. But I will come back when we have that working. I will come back and explain everything about that. I went through so many different rack units, and I needed 32 inputs, and I needed outputs, digital outputs. And you have MADI, you have Dante, you have AVB scripts, you have so many different scripts. But with the KLANG now, you can both use MADI and Dante, because they just, I don't know exactly when, but they just implemented so you can have MADI connection also. And my thought was, using the Mackie with the Dante connection, I can connect on festivals, for example. I can supply front of house with the Dante, because now we're using it in post, and post means that whatever been EQ'd or compressed or gated comes out into the KLANG. But what I can do, I can split it after the preamp also, and send everything or before the preamp. I can choose whatever in the Mackie, and I can send it so front of house get 1-to-1, the same connection. And the future is digital anyway. You don't have any, multi-cores with 48 or 64, whatever. Of course, if you're using analog, but in the digital world, mostly all of the big companies that makes consoles, you can choose from Dante to Madi to AVB to LiveNet or whatever everything is called. And why I choose the Mackie now was that the routing was very, very easy, and it's a stable surface. When you don't have a designated monitor guy that can take care of it, it's very good that it's rock solid, and we haven't had any problems. It's been running flawlessly since I just connected it. So. Actually, we were endorsed since 2009. We were fully endorsed by Sennheiser, and I've been using a lot of Sennheisers when I've been working as a front of house guy also. And this time around, I asked them, for help because we needed some in-ear units, and I think why I would love, to try other brands also, of course, but everyone else in the band are used to the sound of the E300, the in-ear units from Sennheiser, and Joachim is used to using the 935 capsule on the 2050 system Sennheiser wireless microphones. So we ended up going back to that. Of course, it would be great to have a Beta or Shure, the new Shure systems, the digital systems, but we have to turn one page at a time. I don't think it will, actually, because I think the KLANG is an extension of every console that's built. Because from having all the consoles now, you get extra outputs, and you get the sound out of the KLANG. And like we said before, or you said before, that I'm a sound guy. I'm a producer. I work with sound all the time, so I know how to make it happen, to sound right. And if you don't have a guy in the band that can do that, then you need a monitor guy. So I don't think this will put anyone out of work. I think this will make monitor engineers have a so much easier job, because it's so much easier for them. They can do the mix. They can be more, how to say, more like a front of house guy. They can put the effort in of making all the instruments sound really, really good. And then they just send the channels to the KLANG. And then the musicians can choose how they want the levels. They don't need to shout to someone, but he needs to be there anyway to make the bass drum sound good, make the right face on the snare towards the overheads, just to get the sound right. It's not, if you're not an engineer, you don't know how to do that. So I think it's not going to put people out of work.